Hi, it's Wallace. And if you watched my other video, you would know that I was a Protestant for 35 years and I recently converted to Roman Catholicism and never been happier. And the name of this video is the Catholic Reformation 2018. And I'm going to draw some parallels between what was happening in the Catholic Church in the 1500s to what's happened in the Protestant Church in 2018. So if you know your history a little bit, you can look this up on Wikipedia, you'll see that Martin Luther in 1517 decided that he had had enough. He had a lot of complaints against the Catholic Church. A lot of them were valid complaints, what was going on in the Catholic Church at the time. And he created something called the 95 Thesis. And he nailed it to the church door. And so I have my over here 95 Thesis, 2018. But unlike Martin Luther, there's no place to nail it because there's 30,000 different Protestant churches all believing in a little bit different doctrine. So there really isn't any place I can nail it to, which is sad. And which is one of the problems with the Protestant Church is that whatever you want, whatever your interpretation of the Scriptures are, that's your sola scriptura, which doesn't make any sense. Now to them on the other side of it. So, but anyway, taking Luther's two valid complaints against the church at the time, and number one was the selling of indulgences, which is if you gave enough money, you would go to heaven, and of course, the more money you gave to your local church, the better the chances are that you would go to heaven. The other complaint, valid and also valid, was that the Pope was demanding money from the poor to build his rich church, and the Pope was rich at the time, a lot of money, still does, and he was demanding money for the poor and to build his church. So, in my 2018 Catholic Reformation, I'm going to draw some parallels. So let's look at what's going on in the Protestant Church today. And let's look at selling of indulgences. Okay, so back in 1517, if you gave money to the church, you would guarantee heaven. We have the same parallel going on today, only it's worse. Okay, so you have all these prosperity doctrine preachers like Paula White and Jesse Duplantis and Kenneth Copeland and all these guys essentially saying if you give them money, you're going to get blessed. And they're not even promising going to heaven. They're saying you're going to get rich, basically. And I was just watching this Paula White video, on YouTube, and look at some of these up. They're really kind of astounding, really. Paula White has this thing called the first fruits. So you give your 1 month's salary, of course, to her in January, and God is going to bless you the whole year after that. And so really, really selling indulgences and not even selling, heaven. They're selling get rich quick schemes. Give, $1,000 and you're going to get $10,000 basically. And it's horrible. And so many people fall for it. So who did, Jesus say to give to, right? And Jesus never said to give to a person. Remember the rich young ruler where he came to Jesus and Jesus said, sell everything you have. And who do you say to give to? Give to the church? Or no, he said give to the poor. So I recommend you, if you have this, and I'm a tither, I give money, and I believe in tithing, and I believe that giving is part of our Christian experience. But I'm not going to support somebody that's making millions and millions of dollars. I'm going to give to the poor, and I give to the poor. And so I would suggest if you're going to give money away, don't give it to these shysters, and call them what they are. Give to the poor. Give to the people. Place that is going to minister to the poor. Like I'm certainly in your city, which is my city. There's homeless shelters that are just feeding the homeless and housing the homeless. The Salvation Army and all those places that minister to the poor. That's where I recommend giving to. Not these people that are riding around in their limousines and all that stuff. So let's take the second complaint that Martin Luther had, and that is that the Pope was rich at the time, and he was demanding money for the poor to build his church. Valid complaint. And so look what we have now. We have guys like Jesse Duplantis and Kenneth Copeland, Joel Osteen, all these people, and look up on YouTube or Google it. Look at their houses. They're multi-million dollar homes, estates, and they're demanding money, from the poor to, what? Not to build a church, which what the Pope was doing, which was bad enough. They're demanding money to build their houses and to build their mega, $1 million mansions and their grounds and stuff like that. And I was just watching this video. I would highly suggest you look on this video on YouTube. It's Jesse Duplantis and Kenneth Copeland talking about their private jets and just trying to justify to their audience, which is mainly people certainly that don't have as much money as them, but mainly I would guess people that are in the lower economic scale, justifying why they have to fly on private jets and why they can't fly commercially. And I forget which one it was, Duplantis or Copeland, saying that. Can you imagine if we had to fly in that tube with all those demon-filled people? I was astounded to hear that. Can you imagine Jesus saying that he didn't want to be with the regular people? He wanted to just be with his disciples, and where Jesus would minister to anybody, minister to prostitutes, to lepers, to people that were sick. God, I really, really am fearful for their souls. These people that and you look at what Kenneth Copeland. I think he has 4 jets, and he just bought a $47 million jet, and he wants $100 from these poor people that are struggling to make ends meet. So, boy, that's the same thing that Martin Luther was saying. So we have those same parallels now. I mean, probably the main reason when I looked at the Protestant Church with new eyes is that it's sola scriptura hasn't worked out for the Protestant Church, that's for sure. When you have all these different, like I said, 30,000 different churches, all with their interpretation of scriptures, all thinking that theirs is correct, basically. So, I could start a church tomorrow saying, well, the Bible says if your right hand offends thee, cut it off, or if your right eye offends thee, gouge it out. So I could start a church of, gouging your eyes out or cutting your hand off, and certainly saying this is a legitimate church. If you want to come to the church, you have to amputate your hand. Some crazy like that. And there's certainly crazy places. There's a Jim Joneses and the Westboro Baptist churches and these crazy people that get off on a tangent and calling themselves Christians. So the problem is there's no overriding authority to govern these people. So I would highly suggest that you look at these things, and I would highly suggest that you look at the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church certainly is not without its faults. It's going through a lot now. But I have met, committed Catholics that are committed to, God's one true, holy, Catholic and Apostolic Church, which is what I believe Jesus was talking about, when he said, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And I'm praying that the gates of hell will not prevail against the Catholic Church. Now, just in closing, I want to say that, I've been to, not thousands, but hundreds and hundreds and met thousands of Protestants that are committed to the Lord, that they're godly people, pastors that are making no money, that take no salary, that are living hand to mouth, preaching the gospel, and are very, very committed to Christ, and not in it for the money like these idiots, I was talking about, and just in it for the glory of God. But, the parallel would be that I'm sure in 1517, the vast majority of priests were not, selling indulgences or doing this other stuff, They were committed priests. They were in the priesthood because they were committed to the Lord, just like, there's a lot of Protestants now. So, again, I would highly suggest that you check out the Catholic Church. It's been about 6 months now, and I tell you, I go to Mass, and it's just the most glorious, glorious place in the world. I love it. So God bless you, and God bless you on your journey wherever it takes you.